Simon had been gazing out of the window from the front passenger seat, seeing very little in the deep darkness apart from the occasional glint of moonlight on the water breaking over the rocks in the burn. Slowly his head slumped forward onto his chest as, either from the effects of the alcohol or the sheer hard work of looking after a rapidly developing son, he fell asleep. Elliot smiled, and looking in the rear-view mirror he saw that Kate had also dozed off, still holding the hand of little Thomas, who had the ability to sleep anywhere. Sleep was a gift that Elliot envied pretty much above any other, given his own constant battle with insomnia. As the others slept peacefully, his mind returned to the conversation with Truman, and he went over his story again in his mind. Looking up, he saw a full moon shining brightly, silhouetting the hills and the leafless trees, which were leaning away from the relentless, icy gales that had bent them over decades. Clouds carried on the strong winds drifted like smoke across the face of the moon. It seemed to him like a scene from a bad horror film. What was that one? An American Werewolf in London? He remembered the scene where the two young American boys were leaving the Slaughtered Lamb Inn to set off into the rain. "Stick to the roads, stay off of the moors," was the dire warning of the unfriendly locals in the inn as they left. Of course they didn't stick to the roads or stay off the moors, but then if they had, there would have been no story, would there? As he turned off the Hoyk road onto the narrow track leading down to the cottage, he chuckled to himself openly. Of course, that was it. It was the location. He remembered a time in the 70s when he was driving back beside Loch Ness with his father in the early hours of the morning, after a nice meal and a few drinks. They decided to pull over and take a look at the loch. The night was much like this, a full moon, clouds scudding across it, and a low mist hanging over the water. Elliot had scrambled down onto a pebbled area to get on a level with the loch and looked out across the water. As he stared into the mist in the deathly silence, broken only by the lapping of the water near his feet, a few hundred yards out he saw what looked like something poking out of the water and travelling at speed across the loch. Calling his father, they looked closely, and as the clouds cleared and the moonlight brightened a little, they made out a fallen branch. It was the water rushing past the submerged branch that was moving, although an optical illusion was telling his brain the branch was moving, not the water. A few more drinks, and it would have been a confirmed sighting of Nessie, he thought, smiling to himself. That was it, of course. It was the location, the atmosphere, and the almost obsessive interest he had been taking in the history of the surrounding area. Would he believe any of this whilst driving home from work down the M1 on a Friday night, along with thousands of other lemming-like wage slaves? Would he believe it whilst sitting on his sofa in his modern flat in Abingdon, flicking through television channels, trying to find something to watch that didn't involve someone trying to get on an EasyJet flight back from Alicante or some such place, or watching some unknown so-called celebrity sleeping in semi-darkness, or some person who believed that all the problems for a sad little world would be solved if she had slightly bigger or slightly smaller or slightly different shaped breasts? Of course not. He had given some credence to all this nonsense from Truman because he was in the perfect location. Miles from nowhere, with no access to mobile phones, in just the kind of weather and situation that was necessary as a backdrop for any bad horror movie or supernatural claptrap. Of course, some part of him wanted it all to be true, something beyond the mundane, the mere ordinary. As he pulled off the road and down the track towards the cottage, he laughed at himself openly, at the complete stupidity of giving even momentary credence to any of this. It was then that Elliot saw the red cap.